And what was it that motivated you to enter the Golden Globe race in the first place?
People think Golden Globe race is a sailing race. It is not. Yes, it is sailing. You do a lot of sailing, but it's not a sailing race. When you participate in this event, you know that everybody suffers a great deal. Maybe one or two doesn't, but in general, everyone suffers as much as I do. But I guess I am not...
Emotional suffering, though.
Of course, yes.
Yeah.
Because you don't talk to anyone, and it's a very hard thing, not knowing what's happening to your family. And that is the hard part of Golden Globe race.
Hello and welcome to the Sailing Podcast with me, Theo Stocker. Thank you very much for joining us today. Now, I'm very privileged to be on a really special and really quite small boat with one of the most intrepid and friendliest sailors that I know, and I think probably anyone has ever come across. I'm with Ertan Beskardes. Ertan, hello.
Hello to you.
Thank you very much for having me aboard today. Now, Ertan, you are a British sailor who was born in Turkey.
That's right.
You learnt to sail on the Bosphorus,
Yeah.
and then you moved to the UK in the late 70s.
Yeah.
You then built a career as a military tailor.
That's right.
And regalia specialist.
Yes.
So making military uniforms and military medals.
Yes.
Based in Bournemouth, where you married and brought up your lovely family.
Yes.
Whilst sailing on Christchurch Harbour, I believe.
That's right, yes.
More recently, we first met when you entered the 2018 Golden Globe race, when Don McIntyre reinstated the Golden Globe race as how many years was it? 50 years since the first one in 1968, and it had never been sailed in that format again. And you were one of the sailors who signed up for it. You sailed in that race, and you sailed in the 2022 race, but so far you haven't made it all the way around on one of those.
That's correct.
More recently, you have made it all the way around the world on the boat that we're currently on, which is your Mini Globe 580 Trekker.
That's right.
It's lovely to be aboard, and it's a pleasure to see you again. And we're having a cold beer. It's a roasting hot day today, so if you hear us sipping away at beer, it's 31, 32 degrees outside. It's actually quite pleasantly cool inside here. I thought it might be a bit of an oven, but it's not too bad. We have just turned the fans off, though, just so they don't disturb the microphones. But if we start sweltering, we might switch them back on in a little bit. Ertan, I really want to talk about your two major adventures, the Golden Globe and the Mini Globe. But first of all, could you tell me a little bit about what it is that ignited your love for sailing?
I have always loved the sea, and I always loved knowing that it was an adventure always, because when you go out to sea, the end is not always guaranteed, especially when you go on your own. And that's always been an attraction to me, to be on the water on my own. And that has always been since I was a child. So I love getting out to sea.
And what was the first boat that you sailed? Do you remember what it was that you sailed?
Yes, when I was very young, maybe 12, 13 years old, my father bought probably one of the first fibreglass dinghy type of things that arrived in Turkey, which my father bought for me, which I put a stick to it to make it into a sail. And I used to spend my days and nights all the time in that vessel. I used to go everywhere in it. I used to be...
And nights, you'd sleep on it?
Of course, yes.
How big was it?
It was tiny, maybe 2.5, 3 meter long. It was a little bit bigger than Optimist, I think. And obviously my mother used to be very upset with me all the time because I used to disappear at night, and obviously I have no communications and so on. And I would turn up in the morning and she would be always angry with me that I've been out at sea all night.
And where were you when you slept on board?
Bosphorus.
Yeah, but did you anchor, or did you pull it up on a beach and then sleep in the boat?
Well, I would often find a buoy and I just tie myself to it, or it could be a light cardinal, and I would tie myself to cardinal in Bosphorus and I sleep there. And sometimes I'd be lucky enough to catch a fish.
Did you put a cover over or just sleep under the stars?
Under the stars, because the weather in Istanbul often in the summer is very nice, just like this.
Yeah.
So it was okay to sleep outside. It was just the adventure of it, knowing that I was the only person out on the water. There were no other people on the boats except the big ships passing by.
Did anyone sort of come over and wonder what a young boy was doing, tied up to a navigation mark in the middle of the Bosphorus?
Not really, because there was no one around apart from the big ships, and there was no control then. You could do pretty much whatever you wanted, and so nobody ever questioned me. I mean, the people who lived in their homes, that they knew that this stupid boy used to go up and down Bosphorus a lot, but other than that, no, I've never had an issue like that.
Yeah.
In fact, what you don't know, you don't worry about. It normally is. So.
That's amazing. And then when you came to the UK, you started sailing again then. How old were you when you came to the UK?
17.
Okay.
And
did you come with your family or by yourself?
No, I was on my own.
Yeah.
I came in 79, and my first boat was an Enterprise and dinghy. And then after I got married, things became easier because my wife would look after the work while I could go sailing. And because we were in Bournemouth, everything's so much easier because of the Poole Harbour, Christchurch Bay and Leamington, and we could trailer our boat to whichever destination we wanted. Sometimes we would trailer it long way away, go to like Littlehampton and so on. And it was always on the Enterprise dinghy.
And does she enjoy sailing as well?
She did, yes. I mean, not as much as I did, but she always enjoyed the adventure of it as well. I think she went along with it.
Yeah. And then tell me a little bit about your business. How did you get into military tailoring?
Well, it was I was working in a menswear shop, and generally when you want to work in a menswear, you don't need to have any qualifications, just enthusiasm and be pleasant and hardworking. So it was one of these jobs that didn't require qualifications. So I always started in the menswear business, and and I was managing a shop in Staines and Slough and various places. And then one day I met this gentleman, Mr. Golding, who was a well-known tailor, and he wanted somebody, and I didn't know what I was getting into it, but I went into it because I was going to do a lot of traveling from Berlin to Belfast, every military camp. In the early 80s and 90s, we had a lot of people in the military. I mean, we had almost 45,000 people in Germany, so there was a lot of work. And it was very difficult to start with, but I learned my trade. I loved it, and I felt like I belonged to a family there. And the 40 years almost I served them. I thoroughly enjoyed my work. And unfortunately, when everybody retired, that part of the business came to an end. But we still do the military medals and regalia and so on and so forth, the presentations. We still do that. Yeah.
Do you miss doing it now, the tailoring?
Of course I do, because it was fun, and you meet lots of new people, and I have certain knowledge which I can then pass that knowledge over, prepare them for their next promotion, and I really enjoy that because I could give them something that they didn't know. That's always nice to be able to serve somebody and provide the service, and they always appreciated it. And as long as they appreciated, I had endless amount of work, always. As long as I pleased my customers, I always had more work.
Yeah. And then in 2018, had you already stepped down from military tailoring when you decided to do the Golden Globe race, or was the Golden Globe race 2018 sort of a push to stop working?
You're right. It was a push. I was in 2017. I was in Alicante. I had my other boat there. I sailed it from Leamington to there, and I parked it there. And I always wanted to do this. And when I found out in 2017, I said to my wife, I really would like to do this. I didn't know what I was getting into. I mean, be a cruising sailor and doing Golden Globe race has got nothing to do with it. I mean, it is a shock to the system, what you have to know and get prepared for. But the beautiful thing about in life is when you get into something you don't know, it's an adventure, and you have to learn lots of things. And I always loved about in any business, when you get into it. So this was November time. I said to my wife, look, I would like to do this, but I need a boat. And Jean-Luc, who had bought a Rustler 36 for this event, I said he's done it 6 times or 8 times. So
He knows reasonably well what he's doing, doesn't
absolutely. So I said, oh, I must buy myself a Rustler 36. And then we found this boat in Sardinia, and which we were in Alicante. So I said, let's jump in an aeroplane and go there. And we went there, and obviously I didn't know anything about the boat. So I just said to the guy, we shook hands. I made an offer. We shook hands on it, and I bought the boat. And that was the easy part. And then I found the marina manager, Bobo. I said to him that this is what I want to do. He kindly organized to have a new rigging done and this done, that done on the boat. Get it relatively ready, including putting a hydrovane. And then they put it in the water. I jumped in the water and immediately sailed out to Mediterranean, and with the view to going to Alicante first to collect some more supplies and on towards Les Abdalon. But obviously, as soon as I left after 3 days, suddenly a big storm came, and not much worked on the boat, and the water was above the floorboards. I was in front of Mallorca, and it was pretty bad storm in January. And that was my first taste of what was wrong with the boat. So I went into Mallorca, and the beautiful thing about Mallorca is that it has everything as far as the facilities for the yachties, but not in the summer, but in the winter. And I was able to find 4 different tradesmen to come to the boat and fix all those things within a week. And then I continued on to Alicante, and then I stopped in Lagos. I found an American gentleman, he did some more work to it, and I got the boat fixed until I got to Les Abdalon. And it was a very busy 6 months, because this was starting from January, and the race was starting in July. And I didn't really know what I was doing, but all I knew that I had to go forward with all the things that done required. And when I got there, I met everyone who knew what they were doing. So while I was hanging out with them, I learned a great deal, and I started the race. And suddenly I woke up on the way towards La Coruña that I had to talk to my family. Suddenly it hit me that after 6 months being busy, I wasn't really mentally ready to continue on. I still had a very busy work schedule. There were so many things that I wanted to do, but this was not important enough for me to continue. So I quit pretty early on the first one. But that didn't stop me wanting to do it again. And so I went and did the Azores and back, and I did Ostar, tried on the Ostar. I did lots of sails. And so I was a lot more ready on 2022. Again, after 2.5 months not being able to talk to your loved ones, it was a big problem for me. And then you do a lot of crying, worrying about them. And the fact is that they're okay. I know they're okay. If there was a problem, Don would tell me on our weekly conversations. And I really wanted to continue on the Hobart, and Don insisted that, due to race rules, I must stop or slow down in Cape Town for the media and so on. And really, I planned to continue the Hobart, and obviously I knew that my wife and my family would come and see me in Hobart. But when I slowed down and saw all those people in Cape Town, I decided I had to stop and talk to them, and that was the end of that for me. And I really enjoyed my time. It was really, really wonderful, and I didn't regret stopping there at all. And but it didn't leave my mind. I just wanted to. Some weeks later, the Golden Globe came into my mind again. And then MGR was operational, and Don was selling his boat. And so I sold the Lazy Otter and bought this boat from Don and did the MGR, but Golden Globe race was still in my mind to do it again. I never thought as a failure. I just thought that I did what I could do this time without upsetting myself.
And what was it that motivated you to enter the Golden Globe race in the first place?
People think Golden Globe race is a sailing race. It is not. Yes, it is sailing. You do a lot of sailing, but it's not a sailing race. When you participate in this event, you know that everybody suffers a great deal. Maybe 1 or 2 doesn't, but in general, everyone suffers as much as I do. But I guess I am not
Emotional suffering, that
Of
is.
course, yes.
Yeah.
Because you don't talk to anyone, and it's a very hard thing, not knowing what's happening to your family, and that is the hard part of Golden Globe race, not the sailing part, and that's why so few people make it to the end, and not because it is hard physically, but emotionally, it's a very hard race to do.
What makes you keep on coming back to do it when it's emotionally such a difficult race to do?
Well, if it was easy, it wouldn't be so fun to do it, I guess. Anything difficult is worth doing. And this is a very difficult thing to do, for me especially. I mean, there are exceptions. Some people is not affected for these things. But for most of us, it is a very difficult thing to do, the Golden Globe race.
And what's the motivation that keeps you going when it is difficult? What's the thing that I'm keen to understand? What made you do it in the first place, and is the motivation to keep on going the same as the motivation that made you enter in the first place?
Well, I want to complete it. I mean, for me, going around the world has always been you start one point, you arrive at that point. For me, that's going around the world, and that's what Robin did. And that's what I want to do. And I would like to start at one point, arrive at that point without stopping and without getting any help, with my own effort. And I would like to do that. And that's my motivation.
Yeah. And is that what motivated you in the first place? Is that what was it a sort of an opportunity to test yourself, to see what you were capable of? Is that why you entered, or was it something else?
Of course, it is only an adventure when you know you cannot possibly not do it. I mean, people who go around the world, they fail a lot, and including Jean-Luc, he's failed on many of his attempts. So you keep trying to do something that is really hard, and in life, that's what makes it so special, when you achieve something that is beyond most people's capabilities, and it really is. And we are only down to 18 people already for one reason or another. And I don't know how many people will start.
That's entrance for the 2026 event.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
And this is 16, 17 people on average enter the GGR, even though 50 people prepare for it. We had 26 people a month ago. We are down to 18. People don't realize how hard it is until they get into Golden Globe race. It is nothing to do with cruising or adventure sailing or popping over across the Atlantic. It's nothing to do with that. There is a lot more to Golden Globe race.
Yeah. Do you think it would be different were you to have sailed it in 1968, when you were effectively allowed any communication ashore that you could do, i.e. you could listen to radio, you could use long-range radio SSB if you had it, if you could afford it. You could speak to other ships. So there was no artificial barriers to communicating home. There were just real technological barriers that meant it wasn't really possible. Do you think it would have been different sailing it then to the modern race, where it's only the event rules that prevent you from speaking with home?
I mean, two things. First of all, in 1968, there was not Starlinks or Iridiums and so on. And the HF system was quite advanced in those times. You could get connected, you could talk to people. There were a lot of people using this system. But we find out on the last one, there's hardly anyone using HF radio. So it's really very hard to find people to talk to. So it's very hard to, I mean, apart from the Chinese broadcast and American religious programs, there's very little you can listen, other than you get lucky enough to listen to the BBC World Service. There really isn't very much.
So you're either going to listen to some good sermons, or you're going to listen to some Chinese communist communications.
Whatever. I mean, you actually long for anything that comes through the radio. You listen, because it's after a while. I mean, for me, I really long for it.
Yeah. The BBC switched off long-wave broadcasting as well. I mean, that's not globally an issue, but it was. You could hear it from quite a long way away, I think. Yes,
I mean, we always use the shortwave, which I think for 2 hours every evening you get to hear what's happening around the world. And that's about it, I think. And that is a hit and miss as well. You don't always reach those frequencies and listen properly.
And did do you enjoy the process of a little bit going into your own world and being self-sufficient in a yacht, not worrying about politics and business and food shopping and all of the normal things of life? Or is that something, obviously you miss family, but do you enjoy being in the cocoon of a yacht?
Very much so, because you are very self-sufficient, everything is under your control. Sea is almost always very kind towards you, and it's very enjoyable out. And I love the sailing. I just love the days going by. And of course I miss the family. That really is a problem for me, as always has been.
Would you do it if there was a two-handed event where you could take your wife with you? Would you do that?
Well, I mean, only other person I would like on the boat is my wife. Apart from that, I would not want anybody else. I mean, if she came with me, of course, I would love her to come with me. But again, she would then miss her family, her children. She's got a lot of responsibilities. As a man, we are more irresponsible, aren't we?
I'm declining to answer that one, but probably, yes. Okay. Just talk to me a little bit about, while we're on the Golden Globe race, let's stay on the Golden Globe race.
Sure.
Talk to me a little bit about Lazy Otter, and then about what boat you're going to be entering the 2026 Golden Globe race on.
Well, obviously, after I've seen what everybody done to their boats in 2018 GGR, I learned a great deal. So after the 2018, I wanted to have a Sparcraft mast, and I wanted to have a little cabin on it, and I wanted to have a few changes on it, but it was mostly to do with the rig. Yeah. Because my rig was the original rig, it was very heavy. So following year, I did lots of little journeys, Azores and Biscays and so on. And the following winter, I took the Lazy Otter to Belgium, where there was a new mast was installed. I had new sails, and this was during the COVID time. So we did North Star. We left Plymouth to do Rhode Island trip, and there was only a few boats for that. And I did Azores and back, and it was all those kind of journeys. Yeah. It was mostly North Atlantic, and Lazy Otter was a fantastic boat. It still had a fridge, a hot water, a shower, and so on. It was a very comfortable boat indeed, and it wasn't so abused. It was only blocked at the very front, so there was still. It almost was like a normal Rustler, and. But anyway, when after 2022, I wanted to do this, so I had to sell one of the boats. So I sold it to a Dutch gentleman who was in the Dutch. Crucial is in the Caribbean, one of the Dutch Caribbean islands, and he wanted to do a trip. So I said, the only trip I would ever do is Plymouth to Rhode Island trip, because I love that trip. I think it's one of the best trips ever, Ostar Lake. So we did that together, and that was my last experience with Lazy Otter. And then he decided not to do the GGR, Aaron, and he sold the boat to Par, a Norwegian guy, who's currently at the North Atlantic at the moment, doing his qualifying. So the Lazy Otter will be at the start as well. And as soon as before I returned, many months before the MGR ended, my wife knew that I wanted to do the Golden Globe race, and I said to her, "Look, I don't really want to announce it because I really need to finish the MGR first." And the day after I finished the MGR, I made a bid for the Jean-Luc's boat, Matmut, which was the 2018 winning boat. But the boat was for sale for a long time because I'd been observing it for sale for quite a while, but I couldn't really buy it until this was sold, and that I finished the MGR. So the day after it was finished, I phoned the broker in Les Abdelon, because it's been sitting there since Graham left it there. Graham Dalton left it there to 2022, a week before the start, because he had a health issue. So I knew the boat was good, it was ready to go. And Don very kindly went and checked the boat. He said, she looks really great, she's good to go. And I made an offer, we agreed, and that was the end of that. And a few days later, I took Robin Davey with me, He came over from Falmouth and he spent a couple of weeks trying to get the boat ready for the sea.
Yeah.
We couldn't keep the name Matmut, Jean-Luc said, because it belonged to an insurance company, and we couldn't keep the name. So we have got a Beagle, and we love her, and so we changed the name of the boat to Miss Beagle.
Mm-hmm.
And then since then we've been working on it, trying to get ready for the race. I took another friend with me, Bob Litton, is a jester guy. He came over for a week, did some more work, because I'm not really very good at fixing things. So what I can't do, I ask friends to come over and fix things. And so we've been working hard. But one person we've been working really hard is my wife, trying to get pages of safety stuff prepared and sorted, and order insurance, for example. All these things are a big problem.
Can you get insured for doing the Golden Globe race?
Well, I mean,
it seems it's quite a sort of a stretch for taking,
it really is, yes.
taking a normal cruising boat to the most hostile ocean on the planet and spending a long time there.
Well, what we found out going around the world with Trekker is that a lot of the boats that go around the world is not insured. People don't insure them. And because we have to insure the GGR boats, there's a single company in America, Keen Insurance, who does this kind of work. And although you ask for the insurance, depends which broker you ask for. Eventually, a broker in Turkey or Bulgaria, which works with that Keen Insurance, managed to get this insurance, which costs third-party insurance, which is about $2,500, I think. It's a lot of money for nothing.
Yeah.
But you have to have it, and I think that's been a big shock for many of us, what we have to pay for insurance for nothing, just to...
Well, I know that even racing short-handed within UK or close to the UK is difficult enough. So
is it?
Yeah. So going around the world and finding insurance, I'm at least there's one company that offers it, because otherwise it'd be... But presumably that would cover if somebody needs a medical evacuation or there are other things included, or does it not cover that?
It only, I think, covers third party in case we damage a container ship, or we land on a sensitive beach where we'll need a salvage. I think that's what it covers.
Right,
Okay. We don't actually get anything if we sink the boat middle of.
Okay, so it doesn't actually cover you at all. It just covers
no.
other people if you do something to them.
It also covers Don, because he's got to have liability.
Sure. Yeah.
And the Don also gets covered as well.
Yeah. And then in terms of what you still need to do to the boat, you've got Matmut that had as I remember, she had 1.5 meters shorter mast.
That's correct, yes.
Because Jean-Luc figured that he would be spending most of the time reefed.
Yes.
So having the extra height aloft was just losing stability, and then he put the sail area that he lost into the roach of the mainsail.
Yeah.
And that's still the configuration you've got, is it?
That's right, yeah. I mean, I went and did a couple of 1,000 miles with her, and she's just as fast as Lazy Otter, and it hasn't slowed her down. And she's gotten, apart from the 2 holes at the back, there is nothing on the hull. It's everything been closed. So she's got a very streamlined body. And the only thing I had to do is remove the propeller and get a 2-blade feathering propeller. So there's literally zero resistance to the water flowing by. Yeah. So that's the biggest job I did to the boat.
And then the issues that a lot of people have had in the recent years was anti-fouling.
Yeah.
And because if you spend a long time going not enormously fast at sea, then lots of critters like to grow on it, and goose barnacles and things. What is there a sort of consensus on the best anti-foul for the Southern Ocean and going around the world?
Well, it's not so much Southern Ocean. I think the problem is in the equator, the doldrums. That's where you get attacked from these things. And the last time I didn't really have a problem. I had a standard Force 4 International Micron anti-foul. That's what I used. So did Abilaj, so did a few others. None of us had a problem. The problem you have is if you park the boat too long, and then you take a huge risk if you're not sailing, and you could be attacked by these creatures.
So if you're becalmed somewhere.
That's right, for a long period of time. And a couple of the people who had big problems, I know before we left, their bottoms are dirty already. I think when we stopped around Canaries where there was not much wind, and they stopped quite a few days in the doldrums. I think they suffered the most. And whereas when we really stopped, I turned the engine on, and few knots, 3-4 knots, I continue on, so I can get out of this area. And get into the trade winds.
Does that mean you're disqualified from the race if you run?
No, we are allowed to use the engine. You are penalized for using after a certain amount of fuel, so you pay 2 hours per liter. But the first, I think, 30 or 40 liters for free or something like that. I'm not really sure.
Okay, so there are bits where you are allowed to use the engine without having a time penalty.
Yes, you can. I mean, you are encouraged to use the engine, start the engine, to make sure everything's working frequently.
Yeah.
I mean, some boats have a huge fuel capacity. I mean, the Lazy Otter the Rustler's only about 150, 160 liters of fuel capacity, so which is not really a lot, but it's enough for you to get you through those calms, I think.
Yeah. Okay. That's interesting. There aren't many sailing races where you're allowed to motor as part of the race, are there?
Yeah. But on a 30,000 miles, 100 liters of fuel, it's not really neither here or there, I think.
But a little sort of leapfrog through a calm patch probably makes quite a big difference.
I think so, and I think when the wind goes to zero, I would like to be able to have the option to start the engine and to go through those areas so that I'm not attacked by these creatures. That's my intention anyway.
Okay, yeah. And is there anything you still need to do to the boat?
Not really. Boat is ready. I was very lucky. The boat came with brand new sails, which hadn't been used. So when I go back, when I'm giving the new stickers, I will put the new stickers on and put my new sails up. And I would like to go out for a couple of days for a sail with the new sails. Yeah. No, the boat is ready, really. I think, and I also fitted a second hydrovane. There was only one hydrovane on there, and my Lazy Otter had 2 wind vanes, so this has got 2 wind vanes as well.
Okay, and so one's a spare.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, because they're such a critical piece of equipment for the race, aren't they? That if something breaks, then you're done for, really, unless you've got a spare to fall back on.
I mean, even in this boat, the worst part of the journey we did around the world is Mauritius to Durban. Now, nobody goes from Mauritius to Durban. Even the gym palaces go from Mauritius to Richards Bay. That's where all end up, even the big yachts. No one goes to Durban because all the routers say, oh, you must go to Richards Bay because Durban is very dangerous.
So Durban's further round the coast, is that right?
That's right, yeah.
So Richards Bay is before the real conflict zone, before the Agulhas current and the prevailing winds.
That's right.
So then you can time your sort of hops round
exactly
for when there's slightly less wind or slightly less current. Whereas if you go to Durban, then you have to take your chances with whatever the weather's doing at the time.
Yeah. I mean, it can be quite exciting there, for sure.
I think that's an understatement.
And we were all, because what we read, and everybody goes to Richards Bay, including these big 50, 60, 70-foot boats, we were all concerned that why don't we go to Richards Bay? And Don insisted that we must all go to Durban. And because we have never done it before, it was more of a trepidation rather than anything else. And then when we left, this hydrovane stopped working. The pin came from the most important part. So I had no wind vane, the most important part of the journey from Durban from Mauritius to Durban. And fortunately, I had 2 tiller pilots, and one of them was really bad, but I had a brand new one, so I was able to use the tiller pilot most of the time to get to Durban. And that was, I must say, one of the more interesting journeys, trying to get to Durban.
Well, I'll come back to the mini globe race in a moment. In terms of this year's Golden Globe race, sailing it on, what's the boat called now?
Miss Beagle.
Miss Beagle. Are there things that you are doing differently this time to prepare yourself for the isolation and the loneliness, or for the sailing challenges, that you think stands you in better stead for getting the whole way round?
I mean, the nice thing is that I was busy for the entire year. I wasn't thinking about Golden Globe race in detail because I couldn't really start the Golden Globe race till I finished the Mini Globe race. But the Mini Globe race, we have Starlink. So you never feel alone, you never feel left out, you have incredible amount of information in front of you, and the boat tends to steer itself most of the time, so you're watching Netflix, Amazon, YouTube and so on, and having a FaceTime with friends. So it's not comparable, really. It doesn't get you ready for the Golden Globe race now.
So and this on this Golden Globe race, what are the strategies you're going to use to get you through those bits of loneliness or missing family or the things that have maybe been the hurdles in the past?
Well, first of all, we have no stops until we go to Hobart.
Okay.
So that's a plus thing. At least I have no excuse to stop anywhere until I got to Hobart.
Yeah, nothing to make you homesick.
Exactly. So I know I've got to get to Hobart, and once we get to Hobart, we'll see what we're going to do. You know, I'm sure I will miss them so very much, and I hope once I get to halfway around the world, I'll say, okay, I'll do the rest of it and be done with it. But we have got nothing to stop. There's nowhere to stop till you get to Hobart, really. But on the last one, we had Cape Town, which I could be at the marina in 20 minutes. And
it's quite hard sort of to pick yourself up and pass that temptation close by. It's like the siren call of safety and stopping, I guess.
And for me, exactly it was like that. There was the desire was a lot more than continue. And whatever I do, I must have good time, because I am not doing this for anybody. I am financing it all myself, so it must please me at all times. And I'm not going to do it if I am not enjoying it to a degree every single day. Yeah.
Are we okay to come on to the mini globe race?
Sure.
Then? Can you tell us a little bit about the boat that we're on? Just describe her to us.
Okay.
Explain what we've got around us and what it's like living on board a little bit.
Okay. And Don got this boat built as being the first one in Poland, and there was no money spared for this boat. It has the best mast in the fleet. It's got a Sparcraft mast, which costs more than twice as much as anybody else. And this boat was built really, really well. She's like a lifeboat. She's so strong. And there was never a single thing that I could complain about her. I mean, when the boats arrived at Antigua, there were so many broken spreaders. Some people went through as many as 4 sets of spreaders on their Selden masts.
Wow.
They kept breaking.
What was it that broke them?
Well, for example, when I sail my mainsail a lot, I used a lot, and I can lean my mainsail on my spreaders, which is perfectly safe. But when they did it, their spreaders broke. So some of them use as many as 4 sets of spreaders around the world. And so a lot of them stopped using their mainsails or just using their A-sails and jib to go propel their boat. So this is rather a different boat. This is more special than all the others, I think. She's really a very, very strong boat.
And tell me about the design. Just describe what kind of boat she is. 5.8 metres long. How many feet is that?
Well, that's 19 feet.
Yeah.
And once you close this door, first of all, there is never any mold or moisture in this boat. She's very, very dry indeed. And in fact, I do not remember an occasion other than 10 minutes. This hatch was never closed. Because of that, I broke that hatch because it was open, because it was keep banging out. So before I got to Panama, it broke. And I couldn't find a replacement, so I put one of these hatches that goes top of a boat, the flat ones, all glass. And when I left Panama, that lasted less than 24 hours. I landed on it and the whole thing broke. So I didn't have a hatch till I got to Tahiti, which was lots of mileage.
Yeah.
6-7 weeks of sailing. So the boat is very dry, and when you put the spray hood on, you can leave it open all the time. In fact, it was open all the time. I never shut it. I may have closed a little bit when we had these big waves in the Indian Ocean, but it was always open. So she's very comfortable.
So that's a watertight, just because people can't see what we're pointing at, that's a sort of a standard foredeck hatch.
Yes.
As a watertight companionway hatch. So it's a little bit of a wriggle getting in and out.
But you get used to it. I mean, I'm 6'3" and I don't have a problem. So I just slide through it. And you can, when the sun goes away in the evening, you can sit outside, lay down, look at the sky. She really is lovely during early mornings and in the evenings. But most of the day is spent here, laying on, and I always laid on the floor, which sort of was like a baby's cot.
Okay, yeah, because then you're sort of hemmed in on both sides.
Yes.
And what do? You put the cushions on the floor?
I had cushions at the bottom, and my hydrovane rope came all the way inside. So if I want during the night to go left or right a little bit, I didn't have to go outside. I just pulled one of the ropes.
Okay.
So you could sort of change, because only thing I've ever used for entire way is the compass. I never had any GPS or chart plotter on. I turn my GPS on once or twice a day, see how many miles I've done.
Okay.
So it was much easier for me because I wasn't stressed about the boat speed, first of all. And secondly, it didn't matter if I was a degree or more to the left or the right. The hydrovane took me to the final destination anyway.
Yeah.
Because you're largely sailing on a 270, 260, 250, and that's what you're doing going around the world.
Yeah. And I think possibly it's fair to say that of most of the competitors, you took life reasonably easy. It was more of an enjoyable cruise. You weren't sort of racing hard. Would that be fair?
Yes, I mean, there's some people were racing hard with each other at the front, and they were very competitive. They didn't sleep. They were hand steering, in which I have not touched my tiller for the entire way. The only thing I've ever used is the wind vane or the tiller pilot. And yes, you can go faster in these boats, do 140, 150 mile days if you prepare to work on it. But if you don't do anything, the boat will do 120, 130 miles every single day without even touching anything. So I chose the latter. So it was a very enjoyable trip going around the world.
I'm going to come back to that in a second. Coming back to the boat, she's plywood construction.
That's right.
She's got a chined hull.
Yes.
She's sort of vertical stem, vertical transom.
That's right.
And the coach roof deckhead that we've got above us comes straight from the top side, so there's no separate side decks, are there? So that means that even though we're in a 19-foot boat, both you and I, who are both over 6 foot, can sit upright with spare headroom above us. Obviously, there's no standing headroom, but it's only a small boat. I can see that you've got a watertight hatch between the main cabin, the saloon, and the forepeak. What do you use the forepeak for? Was that just stowage?
Everything's stowage there. Everything was dumped there, and this was never ever closed. Okay. So this always stayed open.
So you can put wet things in there.
I've never had any wet things ever.
Okay.
So as soon as it rained, you jumped inside. So I don't think I've ever had anything wet at all.
Did you use waterproofs on the whole way around?
I only used the waterproofs to leave Lagos to Lanzarote because it got cold at night. But once you leave Lanzarote, approaching Cape Verdes, then you're in the summer weather, and the only thing you're wearing is short and a t-shirt for the next 12 months, pretty much.
So you're sort of chasing the sunshine around the globe.
Exactly, yes, yeah.
So we've got the forepeak, and then I can see that we've got a small hand pump, 3 water butts.
Yes.
Right down, pretty much straight under where the mast is,
That's
I
right.
think. And then she's got a single fin keel.
About 1.4 meters thereabouts.
Okay, and what's that made of?
Lead, I believe, at the bottom.
Lead at the bottom, and the fin is made of, is it steel?
Steel, that's right.
Okay, steel with a lead bulb. And then where we're sitting, because obviously some people are just listening to this and can't see what we're looking at, we've got 2 straight settees.
Two full length berths here.
Yeah.
So 2 people can live here on each side quite easily.
Yeah. And then there's a small sort of where our feet are, and that's where you slept.
That's right.
And there's a movable step,
That's
which
right.
is actually quite a useful little seat. That's what we've got our microphones attached to.
Yeah.
And then I noticed that the floorboards are all lifting underneath
A lot of
our feet.
storage.
So there's more stowage down in the bilge then.
There's probably nearly 100 tins there. So
Okay,
all
so
the
that's where-
food and
So you can get all the
beer.
weight low down.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff loaded there.
How many tins did you take you for getting around the world?
The beautiful thing about the MGR is that you don't have to carry so much. I mean, obviously, I carried maybe 50, 100 of these freeze-dried foods.
Yeah.
But most of the time, because every time you stopped, you loaded up with fruit, vegetables, fresh bread, lots of local stuff. So you didn't have to carry a huge amount of food, really.
Yeah.
Even though I did carry enough for 3-4 months, but it was unnecessary.
Okay. And cooking arrangements, I can see you've got a jet boil. Have you got anything else to
Well,
to
I
cook
have
on?
got one of these normal cooking things, that camping cooking things,
Yeah.
which I used it outside or inside when the weather was beautiful. And I have a camping gas as well. So I had 2 similar type of the jet boil, plus the camping gas, plus the camping stove which I used, which outside. If
Yeah.
I ever caught something or if I was frying something, I used that. If the weather was nice, so I had 3 different cooking things, and we often, most of us had 100+ liters of water at all times. So we always had a lot of water.
Yeah. And how many litres did you budget on a day?
2 liters, and that was actually too much for me. I didn't, because you do everything with salt water. That's for drinking, and when you're in the summer months, you don't really drink tea or coffee very much, so it's purely for drinking.
And then in terms of technology that we've got on the boat, I can see you've got a chart table. There's a fair few bits of electronic gubbins over there.
Well,
Which
we've got an Iridium Executive here, which is you can do your weather and your WhatsApp and what have you. And I had a VHF here, and I have another AIS here. So I had 3 AISs, 2 VH, 3 VHs. So there was a lot of electronic stuff in here, but really it was rarely ever turned on, because when you're in the Pacific, there's really no one around. So you're not really using all of it. Only thing we used a lot, personally speaking, is the Ecomax.
Okay, so that's the radar alarm. So it's an active radar reflector, and then if another ship's radar hits your boat, it pings a little alarm so you know a ship's around.
Yeah, and then you turn everything on.
Yeah.
I mean, then you can turn your masthead light on and your AIS on, your VHF and so on. Then you can go outside and see if there is anyone around. But most of the time, there's very little.
And that
need.
worked well for you?
Extremely well, yeah. I wouldn't recommend anybody to doing channel sailing or going to Channel Islands or going to Brittany, and so it's really not necessary, because it would ring all the time.
Yeah.
But if you're crossing the Atlantic on a quiet part of the Atlantic, it's a wonderful device to have, Ecomax.
And then you also had Starlink. Did all of the boats have Starlink?
Apart from one boat, everybody had Starlink, and that was just the most wonderful thing ever.
Tell me about why Starlink was so good.
Because I had a better connection to the outside world than most people have in their homes. It was that fast.
So that meant that you could chat to your wife?
Yes, to chat to everyone. I mean, everybody
And you could do video calling?
Yes, everybody was fed up with me, because you have so much time in your
They're,
hand.
they're busy with life, and you're just sat there.
Yes, I keep calling them, and they say,
wanting someone to talk
what
to.
do you want? You know, what do you want? What are you calling again? And so on. And obviously, you talk to the other boats as well. You do a FaceTime with other entrants, and you're always communicating. And that makes the days go very fast. And you've got your Amazon, Netflix, Apple, and YouTube, and endless amount of podcasts. And so there is so much to entertain yourself.
Yeah. How many films do you think you watched on the way around the world?
Hundreds, thousands, I think. I think I watched anything and everything, even the second class ones that you watch, because
is there a standout best film for watching when you're on passage at sea sailing around the world?
Not really. You tend to watch the things you like most again and again.
What was your most watched film?
I guess Bosch I must have watched a couple of times going around the world, and Breaking Bad I watched again.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's quite a few sort of these very popular series. You watch them again because it's very comfortable. You watch them and you fall asleep and you wake up, and so that was almost like a sleeping pill.
Yeah.
So you watch the nice things again and again.
Did you bring any books with you?
I did, but I didn't read many. I read a lot of stuff on internet, a lot of educational stuff, but I didn't really read the books that I brought, I must say.
On deck then, in terms of sailing a 19-foot boat across an ocean, describe to me the rig.
Okay, most of the time you've got your mainsail, which you can adjust from the cockpit, and your jib, and that sorts you out for most of the way. We also have 3 A sails, A7, A5 and A3.
So they're asymmetric
spinnakers, and they are like big Genoas. And because they're on a furler, you do not have to go forward. So you can furl them in, furl them out from the cockpit. So sometimes you would unfurl 2 large Genekers, 2 spinnakers. They would be side by side, and that could be on for days sometimes. And so you went to sleep, and the autopilot or the hydrovane cope with it. And most people tend to use 2 spinnaker poles. I never used one, and I used my boom as the second spinnaker. So the one side was always strong, so I kept one spinnaker on that particular sail, and the other side, sometimes the wind shifted, so I could go outside, pull my mainsail and roll it in, and then put some mainsail up and go back to sleep again. So I never did have to go forward, ever.
Yeah. And you've got a furling jib and a furling asymmetric.
That's right.
The main, is that fully battened?
Fully battened, and then we have 3 reefs on there. Again, all controlled from the cockpit.
Mm-hmm. And have you got storm sails on board?
We do, but I never use them.
Okay.
Because it's better to just...
You're more or less in the trade wind routes.
Yeah.
For the mini globe race, goes effectively around the middle of the world, around the sort of the longest route. So you go through Panama, that's
Yes.
correct, and then you go across the Pacific. Just tell me, I keep on wanting to jump ahead. Finish telling me about the boat and the rig, and then I want to find out about the route. So.
These boats come with square top sails.
Mm-hmm.
Now, they're wonderful. It obviously catches more wind, but it's a problem. It never falls down properly. You've got that bit sticking out all the time. And that was an issue when I had very high winds. I couldn't fold my mainsail down. You have to go and take it out of the cars, remove the whole thing in order to remove the mainsail. So sometimes that's all you had at sea when there is 30 knot, 35 knots of wind.
There is a solution to that I've seen on multi-hulls.
What is that?
So when you hoist the main, there's a little dyneema strop that goes from the second car up to the first car and then out to the head of the sail. And that only pulls tight once the luff of the mainsail is tight. So when the luff of the mainsail is loose, the head of the sail can drop away from the mast, and then you can drop it straight down into a bag. You pull those slugs apart, and the dyneema strop then comes tight and pulls the head of the mainsail into the mast.
Interesting. Because on the Selden mast, you can actually pull the top 2 out.
Yeah.
On this Sparcraft, you can't.
Okay.
Because the hole is much higher.
Yeah.
So that was an issue.
Yeah, I can imagine.
At very high winds. And I wish I could have put the mainsail away completely. I couldn't. That was the only sort of criticism on these square top sails. Yeah. I just couldn't fold it down on high winds. Yeah. And really, it needed sometime the 4th reef on very high winds. I think it would have been nice to have the 4th reef.
What was the strongest winds you had on the way around?
Well, we had 50 knot winds, but they didn't last very long. They were, they lasted a couple of hours. It didn't go on for days and days and days. So,
what was it like being in a 19-foot boat in 50 knot winds?
Because she's a very light boat, the load on them is not so bad. On a big boat, everything is screaming and shouting at you. In this boat, doesn't. When you remove the sails, she just floats over the waves. You feel much safer in a 580 than you would in a 40-foot boat.
You're a little sort of, almost like a little barrel, floating like a cork, bobbing along.
And these boats went through some really interesting waves and wind conditions, and none of us felt unsafe. Thinking about it was the scary part, but none of us really were terrified. Yes, it was a little bit uncomfortable on the last leg where we went upwind for 1,300 miles, because these are not really upwind boats, but she was fine. You just lay down and let the boat take care of you.
Yeah. And then in terms of controlling the boat, looking up on deck, I can see you've got, obviously there's a full width main sheet traveller, all the lines are led aft, and then you've got is it 1 or 2 rudders on the back?
1 rudder.
So you've got 1 rudder that's transom hung, and then you've got a hydrovane wind vane steering,
which is the same size as the rudder.
And I can see that you've actually lashed the tillers for those 2 together.
That's right.
Is that how you kept it the whole way round?
No. When you're in a marina, when you're in a close quarters, you have a much better steering going in and out of the marinas with the 2 rudders working. Okay. That's why they are together. It's not necessary to have them together. One of them will be more than enough.
Yeah. And then in terms of auxiliary propulsion, you had an electric outboard on the back.
Yes.
You've got a petrol one now just for dealing with the tides around the coast and in the Solent and that kind of stuff. Did you use the electric propulsion tool?
Well, we used it when we went in the ports, but they were very inadequate other than very light winds. If you had a headwind, you won't be able to go anywhere because they only have a 2-3 horsepower. And if you use
they were 1 kilowatt electric outboards, yeah.
and if you use them full power, they barely lasted 40 minutes, 45 minutes. So you could only use them in an emergency.
Yeah.
But having said all that, most of the ports I sailed in and anchored with the sail. There was no need for the outboard.
Yeah.
But there were a few occasions I wished that I had a petrol outboard because I couldn't get into a port safely. It was a lot of tacking, like cocos keeling, and there was a lot of headwinds, always running at 20,
Getting
25.
in through narrow channels.
Yeah, and that is quite exciting, trying to get into these narrow places. And these places always have very high winds. So your outboard is really useless trying to get into these places. You have to sail into them. And that makes it very interesting. You do take a sigh of relief once you park the boat or you anchor the boat.
Yeah. And what did you do for power generation? How did you power your Starlink and your electronics? And
well, it was not a problem because 200 watts of solar panels. In fact, to go around the world, you only need about 100 watts, I think.
On a simple boat like this, at least.
Yes, 100 watts will be more than enough. And they only need them at the back because the ones on top of the boat, it doesn't really work very well. And I've got 150 at the back. That is so good because you could run the Starlink.
So you've got two little poles sticking up off the push bit on the transom, each with a sort of a little square solar panel
50
on top.
watts. Plus I put another one in the middle, which there's 150 pounds. The 150 watts is so much. You can run the Starlink pretty much all the time. There's so much electricity that produces. That's all you need because we have there's no chart plotter. You're not really.
There's no fridge.
There's no fridge.
Have you got any? You've got a few little lights.
Yeah, but you don't. You really have no need for much electricity here.
Yeah.
And so when in the morning you wake up in the morning, you still got over 90% power on your batteries.
Yeah.
And
it's amazing.
Yeah, by 10 o'clock it's filled up again.
I guess it helps that you're going sort of around the equator, more or less. So you've got
absolutely
slightly shorter days than if you're in sort of northern hemisphere summer, but you've got a lot of direct sunlight.
Absolutely.
And I guess your solar panels you can also angle to face the sun.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the power wasn't an issue. Initially it was an issue, but they were more silly reasons where the wires got disconnected or they were damaged, and some of us replaced our solar panels in Panama. We got these cheap Chinese solar panels. They were perfectly good. In fact, they were better than the fancy ones I bought in Europe.
Yeah.
It cost many times more.
And what breakages and issues and problems did you have on the way around?
Apart from my hatch, which I broke it myself, I fell on it. I didn't really have breakages. I replaced some of the clutches. They weren't holding on very well, and so in Tahiti I replaced some of them because they were like 3-4 years old now. If anything wore out, I replaced them. Some of the cam cleats I replaced, but nothing worth a mention, nothing important that I could say I broke.
The hydrovane
I broke.
did stop working.
Yes, that was dreadful.
Tell me about that.
Well, the one of the most scariest or most exciting journeys we did was from Mauritius to Durban. And there was one place you really did need your hydrovane, and the pin that steers the rudder fell off. It's unheard of.
So that links. So is that links the steering shaft to the rudder at the bottom?
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And when I looked at it, it wasn't working, and I worked out a day later that there's no linkage
So
together.
the rudder was still there, but the steering post was turning within the socket.
That's right. Yeah. And it wouldn't work, and I was very shocked more than anything else. And they told me to put a little bolt in the middle. It really didn't work. I spent a couple of days trying to fix it. It really didn't work at all. It would work a little bit, it wouldn't work.
But you didn't have a spare pin?
No, I didn't. On this new boat now, I've got 3 spares.
Yeah.
But this is not a normal breakdown. You don't normally use this particular item on a hydrovane because this is my 7th or 8th hydrovane.
Yeah.
So I know the bits that normally break. But fortunately, the tiller pilot was great. And we had Simrad and the Raymarines. Raymarines that were not waterproof, ST2000s. But the Simrads were the best ones. They were less powerful, but they were waterproof, and they lasted much longer than the Raymarines.
Did the Simrads have the control buttons on top as well?
That's right. Yeah.
So they all had the buttons on top.
Yeah,
so you can get some that are just a sort of a piston that are driven off a remote unit.
This was all on. I mean, this is just one. It's all in one unit, which is the cheapest and simplest one. Raymarines have a dial in front, which you can see which direction you're going. It always leaked there, and it stopped working soon afterwards.
Okay. And then I think, was it on the way into Cape Town you had a problem with the mainsail?
Oh yes. Now I had a really lovely journey, and all the way to because I left a day before everybody else. Soon after,
from Durban to Cape Town.
No, it was. No, it wasn't. It was not East London. I forgot the name now. Morse something. It was another port one after.
I should probably know that.
I don't remember it now. It's left. I'm a bit stupid. And when I left that place...
I'll put it in the comments. I'll put a little note in there.
And I'll remember in a minute, I'm sure. When I left that place, I left day before, and everybody left day after because there was a better wind then. And soon after, later on that day, Jasmine followed me. And when I had a really nice trip all the way to near the Cape Town. And if you know the Cape Town, when you see Tabletop Mountain, when you see these big clouds coming down at really fast, and you get these winds, southeasterlies, and they are just so powerful. Terrifying, actually, those winds, the strength of it. And I was very unlucky when I got near it, and these winds, and I could see them coming, and I knew I was going to have a problem. And I was literally within 300, 400 meters from the entrance of the harbour. And when these wind hits, none of the ships supposed to dock in Cape Town cannot dock weeks sometimes. People at the yacht club cannot go sailing for weeks sometimes because of these high winds. And when this wind arrived, and I tried to tuck in and try to get in for quite a long time, and one of these gusts literally ripped my mainsail apart, and I lost my drive completely. Now this was about midnight, and unfortunately it wasn't cold. So I wasn't cold. Yes, it was. I was wet, and I was the only boat out at sea other than the big ships that were anchored. And so I lost my drive. The only thing I had was my jib, and because of the waves, the outboard was useless. There was just no use at all. So I tried. I immediately got my anchor out. I threw it out with all the chain, all the rope I had, and I was still traveling almost 2 knots down with it, 1.5 to 2.5 knots. I immediately rang the harbour. The port control. I said, look, I've got a problem. I've got no propulsion. I've lost my mainsail. I've only got the jib, which is not really doing a great deal at the moment, trying to keep me at the direction. And the problem is that I've got so many ships anchored in the vicinity. So I'm calling all these ships. I'm drifting towards you 1.5, 2 knots. And now these ships were awake now because they see that I have a problem coming towards them. And my biggest problem is to drift on and hit one of these ships, and 1 or 2 of them have moved out of the way for me. And then I asked the port control if they could call their RNLI. It's called something different, but
NRSI.
Yes, something like that. And they've got 50 of these for this part of this ocean. They call the wild coast.
Yeah,
and I can see why it's wild coast. So I called them, and it took them a little while at 1 in the morning or 2 in the morning for them to wake up to go to their boat and launch it and come and tow me. But fortunately, by the time I arrived, I cleared all the ships without hitting to any of them.
Yeah,
and I was now out in the open ocean. And then early hours of the morning at dawn, they arrived, and I cut my anchor off immediately. And the wind was so strong with those 2 big engines, they could barely tow me at 1.5 knots into Cape Town.
Wow.
It was, and they were soaked with their wetsuits. It was just so much water was coming over. And I was actually worried that my cleat would just rip from its mountings. We tied them on both ends. and took quite a while to do that 5 miles. It really took. It must have taken a couple of hours just to get to the entrance. And obviously, once you get in there, everything was wonderful. Don was waiting, and he was forgotten 2 minutes later. You know how it is. All the sailors are like that. All these incidents.
You forget the bad bits
immediately.
Yeah.
So, and it's exactly what happened.
Yeah. And was there a bit of, obviously you had lots of stopovers, or quite a number of stopovers. Just tell me the route quickly.
Okay. Now, when I started from Antigua because I did my transit year before, but everybody else started, except the 2 people, started from Lagos. They came to Antigua, and 2 people started with me in Antigua because they sailed their boats from America in Florida, Eric and Josh. Now, when we left Antigua, we had a short hop to Panama.
Yeah.
And that's a beautiful journey because as soon as you leave Antigua, the wind pushes you to Panama. You don't really have to do very much, ever so fast.
Yeah.
And on that journey, I think first 3 days, I had a food poisoning because I took so much food with me. Everybody gave me sandwiches, this, that. Obviously, I couldn't eat them at 40 degrees.
Yeah.
They all gone bad, and I ate them, and I was in bed for 3 days.
Oh, no.
I had a really bad stomach. Anyway, we got to.
You didn't hallucinate somebody helming at the helm for you. You didn't have a Joshua Slocum moment.
The beautiful thing is that I left Antigua. I sailed right into the marina by sail. It was lovely. I went in middle of the night. I don't know. It was 10. I can't remember. It was late at night, and I sailed right into the marina at middle of the night. And it was very nice arriving there because there was a big motor yacht next to me. They offered me nice hamburgers, drinks, and so on. So I had a nice banquet there as soon as I arrived. I was away from all the other 580s. Now, because it was over 30 degrees, it was really hot there. And a nice thing about the MGR is that when you get the destination, you check into a nice hotel. You're in an air-conditioned building with nice food and so on. So the life is wonderful. And it was very pleasant in Panama. And then we went to Panama City. The boats were towed to other side, in the Pacific side. And again, we stayed in nice hotels there. It was fun every day. You had the fun in the morning, fun lunchtime, fun in the evening. It was just fun all the time.
Yeah. So Panama, next stop?
The next stop was Marquesas. That is the longest legs. I think it's almost 5 weeks. Apart from the Galapagos, where there is not much wind, you slow down there. And we all slow down for a number of days. But it was a very nice journey. You've got, you've got this kind of weather, warm seas, so you put a bucket over your body several times a day. So the life was wonderful all the way to when we arrived to Hivaoa, one of the Marquise Islands. And it's obviously paradise, these places.
So we've got a helicopter coming over, if you can hear that. I think that might be the Coast Guard.
And when you arrive to these islands, they are very beautiful. And the first one you arrive is most beautiful, but they are all beautiful. So when you see one, they're all the same. They're all very beautiful. And it was very nice. Again, after a couple of days, you get bored there because it's all the same. And we spent nearly a week there. And in that particular island, I didn't stay in a hotel because there was no place to leave my boat safely, I felt. Many of them stayed in the hotels, but I actually stayed in the boat that particular leg. And then from there I went to another island, which was a mistake, and there was no need for me to do that. And then from there we went to Tahiti. Again, it was a wonderful journey. We did have high winds, but they were all pushing us down. So even when you get really these 30-knot winds or 25-knot winds, they're not really 25, 30 knots. They're pushing you in the right direction where you're going. And then arriving in Tahiti was lovely. It was a proper marina, and it's very easy to arrive anytime. And then we had a really nice time in Tahiti because it's a very French island, so you've got nice restaurants, good places to entertain yourself, nice supermarkets. It was very, very nice. And from there, we went to Tonga. And arriving to Tonga was quite special because of the scenery. Arriving to Tonga, you go to pass through these tiny islands. It really is quite extraordinary. And where you park your boat in Tonga is also very nice. And another place where there is no walk ashore. You have to anchor your boat. And our boats are we have dinghies or kayaks, but they are not. After spending time at sea, last thing you want is to blow up a kayak or a dinghy to go ashore. So I went on my knees. I went to one of the restaurants, Kraken. I went on my knees. I said, could I please park on your pontoon? So I managed to get a walk ashore, the toilets and so on and so forth. And I had a restaurant to myself as well. So that was lovely there. And
presumably the toilets on board are bucket and chuck it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But there, because we were attached, I was attached to the restaurant, we had very nice facilities there.
Yeah.
And from then on, again, it was a short hop to Fiji.
So you did quite a lot of stops across the Pacific.
A lot of stuff. I mean, if you're sailing 6 months, you're spending another 6 months in the hotels.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it so holiday-ish. I mean, I arrived in the middle of the night, but it was very pleasant, and I was able to turn my telephone on and see all the charts safely go in. And the reception there when you arrive to Fiji is something that we experience. All the staff comes and sings for you when you arrive. And it really was very special arriving there. And the islands there are really a cuckoo land there, really very, very beautiful. And so you're almost there a month. So the boat was lifted out of the water, anti-fouled. I replaced the rigging on the boat. Even though it was not necessary, I replaced it. And my family arrived, my niece arrived, my sons arrived. It was a whole month of fun there, really. It was really, really nice. And then when we left there, the next legs was quite interesting because we went to Great Barrier Reef.
Yeah.
Thursday Island, Horn Island, that's where we went. Again, that was very nice. When we passed Rain Island to go into in the Great Barrier Reef, and the boats were traveling 9 knots, 10 knots with the wind and the tide. It was quite special arriving to Thursday Island. It is a place where we were not allowed to use a dinghy because of the crocodiles, the tiger sharks, and
everything wants to kill you.
So I've been told, and there's really nothing there at all. But we made the best of it. We went to pubs, played billiards, and had drinks and ate food and so on. And from there we went to Cocos Keeling. Now that is a place. Have you ever been to Cocos Keeling?
No.
It is quite an extraordinary place, middle of nowhere. It's almost like little paradise. And the water and the aquarium, it was like an aquarium. It was incredible. When I jumped in the water in the mornings, there were sharks swimming with you, small sharks. And that was very special. It was very, very windy there. Again, it was not a very pleasant anchorage, but it was. And I checked into a hotel for a few days there. It was very pleasant. And the weather was not so good there most of the time, but the place itself was out of this world. And some people spend 13, 14 days there. I think I spent 10, 12 days there. And then from there we went to Rodriguez Island before Mauritius. Again, that was another very special place. And from then we went to Mauritius. And we had a great time there as well. And from Mauritius we went to Durban, then from Durban to Cape Town. And Moores Bay we went, that was the port. And the Cape Town we went to St. Helena. Now St. Helena, again, quite an extraordinary place.
It's got no harbour, does it?
No, there's no harbour. I mean, I had to buy a brand new anchor chain and 12 mil rope specifically for that before I left Cape Town. Again, we checked into hotels. We didn't stay in the boats there. I don't think anybody did. And it's a quite interesting place. I mean, you wouldn't go there again, but you'd want to go and see the place once.
Yeah. And then from St. Helena?
To Recife, Brazil.
Yeah.
Again, my wife came and we spent a lot of time there. I mean, yes, it's an unusual place, but these places where there is two extremes, there is wonderful shopping centers, 5-star restaurants. We stayed in a nice hotel. It was a nice break. And from there, we had the upwind leg from Recife to Antigua.
Yeah.
And that was the only upwind leg we had. And the boat handled very well. A lot of water came over.
Yeah.
Boat handled very well.
Yeah. And then that was...
the end of it.
The end.
Yes.
And what was it like finishing?
Well, obviously by this time, GGR was in my mind all the time. So
straight on to the next thing.
Yeah, and immediately the boat stopped. I said, I knew the Matmut was available,
yeah,
Jean-Luc's boat. And I asked my wife if that was okay, and she already told me this many months ago. But I asked again, and she said fine, and I made a bid for the boat.
Yeah.
I mean, Don always knew I was going to do this GGR,
Yeah.
but we never made it public.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's lots of things has to be in the right line.
Yeah.
And the rest is history, really. And I'm looking forward to starting the next GGR.
Yeah. Amazing. Well, we'll be keen to follow you and see how you get on and watch you sail all the way around without stopping.
I hope so. I mean, that is really the aim.
Yeah.
In order for me to leave Les Abdalon on September 6th.
Well, maybe we can be sat on the same pontoon in a year or so's time, having another beer, chatting about how the Golden Globe
Well,
race
I hope you'll have time for me to see me in a year's time. Then.
Absolutely we will. Ertan, all the best for the Golden Globe race. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat to us both about your Golden Globe plans and the mini Globe race. It's been a pleasure to see you again, to catch up and to be aboard Trekker with you.
Thank you so very much.
That's it. Thank you very much for joining us today. If you enjoyed that, give us a thumbs up, like, subscribe, all the usual stuff. And let us know what you thought in the comments. If there are people you want us to talk to or questions you've got, do let us know in the comments. But until next time, we will see you again on the Sailing Podcast.